everyone, today in this video I'm going to be checking out Sceptre's new 27-inch gaming monitor. Specifically, the model of this monitor is E275W-FW100T. Sceptre did send me the sample, but any opinion expressed in this video is strictly my own. That being said, if you're interested in this monitor or you want to find out more about it, the link to it will be in the video description. Here's a look at the retail box and packaging. From the front, everything looks great. 27-inch monitor, 100 hertz refresh rate, 1920 by 1080p full HD, 100% sRGB for our color, edgeless design, and we have AMD FreeSync. From the side, you'll learn about those same tech specs right here. Back side's going to be basically identical to the front, and then you'll see on this side they walk you through the included contents and the model number right there. Now let's go ahead, let's open this up and see what's inside. Here are all the contents. First up, we have our product literature consisting of a thank you and customer service card, followed by 1-year warranty information. Lastly, we have our full user guide and manual walking us through everything we need to know about getting our monitor set up, how to use the different input options, menu settings. Look at all the detail there, going through everything you need to know. Then we have our supported video resolution for DisplayPort, 1080 up to 100 hertz. HDMI, same thing, 1080 up to 100 hertz. And then a troubleshooting section and warranty information again. Next, you'll see the stand in 2 pieces here, base plate and arm. Then we have one included HDMI cable right there for you. Power supply, this is an external power supply. Maybe you can see the specs right here on it, barrel plug connector. And then lastly, we have the monitor. Let's look at this in more detail. Looking at the back of the monitor, you'll see Sceptre's logo and branding, some venting right here, VESA mount option, and our stand mount. We have 2 speaker grills, Kensington security lock, menu and control button there. You'll see some additional product info. Then we have color-coded input options, 1 DisplayPort 1.2, 2 HDMI 2.0s, audio out, and DC in for our power. You'll see all those ports right there on the monitor. Get a feel for the thickness of this monitor from the bottom view and from our top-down view. And you'll see it from both sides right here. Very slim. Now let's look at it from the front. You'll see Sceptre's logo and branding down here, HDMI 100 hertz. We have a little brushed metal design. Near bezel-less on the sides and the top. It's really just a fingernail's width. And then if I peel this back, we can look and see where the pixels actually end. Right at the tip of my thumb is where the pixels will stop. So you will have a little bit of black around the sides and the top right there. Now let's go ahead, let's get the stand installed and try it out. All right, so we have the stand set up here. I wanted to show you what we're able to do feature-wise with it. So we can tilt the monitor back. We can tilt it forward. That's gonna be our max tilt forward. So take a look at that from the side profile there. Max tilt forward, max tilt back, or anywhere in between. And that's going to be it. There's no adjustable height. There's no swivel, rotation, or anything else. So it's just going to keep it upright, and then you can just tilt it forward or backwards. All right, so now we have the monitor plugged in, powered on. You'll see I'm looking at our Windows Advanced Display settings right here. We are getting everything as advertised, 1920 by 1080, and our refresh rate is 100 hertz. Now I want to show you the menu. Sceptre does a really good job walking you through each individual menu item here, and they even have descriptions built in. So we're just going to quickly go through each setting here so you get a feel of what you can expect. But up at the top, we have our quick specs there. You'll see now we're looking at the quick start section with our different presets and options readily available for us. These are going to be basically your most common features you're probably going to want to use or adjust. Then you'll see we have picture settings, color settings. Such a clean, simple layout, guys. Like I said, the description's clutch too if you don't know what the setting is. Then our system settings, there's overdrive, FreeSync. If you guys want to adjust those. And our reset down at the very bottom. So a very easy menu to navigate. Just press this button, press it again to get all the settings. Then you can go to the side, right? There's our presets. Press again up at the top, it's gonna be our volume. Then you'll see we have our sources. And then down at the bottom, we have our power. Really quick, I wanted to show you how the different image presets change the picture quality here. So we're cycling through them all very quickly, so you get a feel for the same moving clip, how things are going to look depending on the preset that you choose. So just some very subtle differences. Obviously, I'd say Eco and FPS probably have some of the most changes. Movie mode too. Keep cycling through a couple more times. So get a feel for each mode and how that image is going to change. Obviously, with the user section, you can set that and configure that yourself. But I wanted you to get a feel for how the image looks and changes with each preset. And very simple, depending on the game you're playing, the content you're streaming or consuming, you'll be able to just cycle through these and find exactly what works best for you. Now we're going to look at a couple different UFO tests. First, with this test here, you'll see we have different frame rates moving across the display right here. So 100 FPS at 100 Hertz up at the top. Then we cut that in half, 50 FPS followed by 20 FPS here. What you need to know with these different frame rates is when you have a higher refresh rate monitor, if your system or your console can push those higher FPS values, your footage will be a lot smoother. So look at the sputtering and staggering down here with the UFO moving across the screen. It gets better as we double our FPS value there, but it gets even better as we double it again. So typically the higher the better if your system can match or even exceed your monitor. You'll want to have that buttery smooth footage like the UFO going across the top versus the bottom. Next, let's look at our UFO test to see if we can notice any ghosting. And it's very obvious looking at this panel that we are going to have ghosting here. A lot of blurring and smearing of the whole UFO, kind of just streaking across the screen. So we've toggled on some of our overdrive settings. We've worked with the FreeSync setting within the monitor itself to see if we could improve that at all or make it any better or even any worse. And it seems very standard, even if we have some of those settings enabled or disabled, not much of a noticeable difference here. So you will notice some ghosting, streaking, blurring, smearing as it's moving across the screen as you're encountering motion like this in your games. Moving right along, let's talk about backlight bleed. So we currently have a full black screen up on the monitor right now. We've turned off all the studio lights, so we had a nice dark room, and we were not able to notice any backlight bleeding. But I do want to point out with this particular monitor and this panel, one, it can truly vary panel to panel, but two, this black screen on this monitor doesn't get very black. I mean, it looks really black here, but when you turn off all the lights and you're looking at it, it definitely has a consistent lighter glow to the whole picture due to just how not black the blacks get, if that makes sense. I hope that helps you, but no glaring issues, nothing like that looking at the black screen. Besides, the blacks just don't get that black. Next, just for fun, this is a simple test where we're just gonna browse the web with this monitor. Now, keep in mind, as with everything in this video, we have a camera pointed at the screen, so it's just not gonna look as clear or as sharp as you would see in person. So take it with a grain of salt. But anyways, wanted to show you how responsive your favorite websites will be, how good everything's gonna look, clear, crisp, easy to find, right, load and watch your videos. Next, maybe you wanna catch up on some tech news, look at all the different images, graphics, fonts, embedded ads, I mean, everything, how it's gonna display here. We can just go ahead, let's click on an article here. And just scroll through it. Everything looks good. And then we got our favorite e-commerce platform. Same thing. Images clear, crisp. Very enjoyable using this large display to browse the web. Now we're testing out the built-in speakers on this monitor. So they're both rear firing right down here on the other side of the monitor. We currently have it maxed to 100. We're listening to the song Dripping with Ice by Music Chef. Music Chef is home to stream-safe music for content creators. So this is max volume at 100. They're not going to be super loud if you can't tell. And our microphone's not that far away right here. If you have them up against a wall, something like that might help make it sound a little bit better, depending on like your desk placement, things like that. But let me show you. We'll adjust that volume down. To me, there's really no noticeable change until maybe like that 30 or 40 range. Then everything else seems the same. But I sound like a broken record when I say this. I'd rather have them and not need them than need them and not have them. Next up, it's time for my favorite test here. We're going to be testing out the input lag on this panel. Now, keep in mind, input lag is the amount of time it takes your monitor here, your display, to actually display a signal on the screen from the source that sent it. So your computer, your console, this little magic red box. So the lower the better. That's what we're going to want to see here with our scores. So my arm's blocking a little bit, but we're in that 1.5 to 1.7-ish range. So 1.7 milliseconds there, followed by 9.1 milliseconds, 9.2 milliseconds for the middle, and then you'll see at the very bottom, right on cue, right at about 16 milliseconds. So not bad. Sometimes for Sceptre monitors, we'll see higher values than these. We've had some Sceptre monitors come in that 18, 19 millisecond range for our very first value. So for this one coming in right at that 1.5, 1.7, that's well within range for a monitor in this category. For those wondering about the color accuracy and representation on this monitor, we use DisplayCal here to run a couple of tests, and you'll see our findings. So for our sRGB coverage, we're showing 99.2% and 113.2% for our sRGB volume. For our Adobe RGB coverage, 73.7% and 78% Adobe RGB volume. And lastly, for DCI P3, we're showing 80% coverage and 80.2% for volume. And the moment you've all been waiting for, how does this monitor do gaming? We're going to be looking at a couple of games here, sampling them on the monitor for you. We'll have Forza 5, Assassin's Creed, and Borderlands 3 footage for you to see how everything's going to look. And don't worry, I have you console gamers covered as well. First, we have our PlayStation 5 connected right here. You'll see our video output information. We're getting 1920 1080 at 60 Hertz, so that's what we'll be able to get resolution-wise with our PlayStation 5 using this Sceptre monitor. And for you Xbox users out there, I got you covered as well. We have the Xbox Series X connected. You'll see, looking at our TV display options, 1080p at 60 Hertz is what you're going to get with this Sceptre monitor and your Xbox. So where does that leave us with this Sceptre monitor? Well, let me share with you my final thoughts. Typically, Sceptre shortcomings are going to be in the color and the gaming department. That holds up true here with this particular monitor. Not going to have the best colors, and in regards to gaming performance, you will most likely notice some ghosting. So hopefully you have a tolerance that can be adjusted for that, because where Sceptre really excels is the value department. Typically, with all of their monitors, you'll be hard-pressed in in those product categories to find a better value. Typically, you'll find similar monitors. They won't be as large, they won't have as high of a refresh rate, they won't have as many ports or speakers, VESA mount compatibility, things like that. So in this case, while it is a pretty bare bones monitor in regards to its stand, it still has plenty of ports, 2 HDMI and a DisplayPort, built-in speakers, a large 1080p 27-inch display, and up to 100 Hertz for the refresh rate. So Sceptre does a great job with the value department, but it still rings true. You get what you pay for. So what do you value most? Dollars back in your wallet and a good enough monitor, or do you want the best of the best, but you'll have to shell out a couple more bucks to get that?